you don't want to just milk collectors for more and more money all the time. Like in the same way that you have cash back, you have Amex rewards points, travel points, etc. This is kind of the system we want to build internally with Coop Records and make it feel more like a game. And the more that people feel like they're playing something that is fun and engaging and culturally relevant to their day-to-day lives, and the more that Coop Records can be a place that people want to actually discover new music and not just be like a crypto play, I think that's when the snowball really starts to form. And I think that's where we start to see this actually start to work far beyond just only applying to crypto people directly.
Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Carlos Podcast. Today's guest is Cooper Turley, who is the founder of Coop Records, an on-chain music label. We had a great discussion about what it means to run an on-chain record label and his experience after working with hundreds of artists. We also talked about going viral on-chain and onboarding users through his new event, Midnight Diner. Thanks again for tuning in, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. And we are live. Hello, Coop. How you
Hey,
doing?
man. Stoked to be here.
I know you were traveling recently. You went to Japan, right? How was the trip?
Japan was amazing. It's my third time out there in Tokyo. I absolutely love it. I was hanging with this artist called Roki that I work with, and they showed me the trailer for their new season that's coming out in September. It's incredible. I would highly recommend checking it out at Roki Official on Warpcast and Twitter. But Tokyo was great, man. I ended up DJing in Shibuya. There was like a crypto cafe meetup that was fantastic. Did a bunch of thrifting, got to see a bunch of, awesome sights and nature and great food. So yeah, really no complaints.
Amazing. And this artist that you mentioned, what kind of artist? Is it a musician? What is he doing or she doing?
Yeah, it's a group. It's an artist that's creating an anime. And so they have a history in making pop music, electronic music, and they've basically been creating this cinematic electronic music. And they have now been playing around with all the latest and greatest AI tools and basically creating an anime series that is built on the back of all of the creative work that they've been doing for the last couple of years.
Well, that sounds really, really exciting. And I mean, I'm very jealous of that trip. It seems that you were there with the locals. They show you around. That's really exciting. And what do you think about the crypto scene, the on-chain scene in Tokyo? Because I have read so many things. I know there are many communities out there, but I feel like there is probably because of the language barrier, right? It seems that the communities are kind of in silos. Is that what you see as well, or what are your thoughts regarding communities in different parts of the world?
I don't have a too strong of an opinion on like the crypto community in Japan because I wasn't that tapped in with it. The hosts that organized the event that I played were fantastic. The crypto cafe, as they call it, in Shibuya was a really cool vibe. I got to meet a lot of people that I had seen around on Warpcast and that were users of Sonata and whatnot. So that was really, really special for me. I would say in general, my takeaway is that Japan's just a lot more technologically forward than here in the US. Like, for example, there's something called the Suica card, and you can load it up on your wallet on your iPhone, top up your balance, and then anytime I'm paying for a train ticket or I'm buying something at 7-Eleven or buying clothes or anything like that, it's just like Apple Pay on steroids. And I think that that was just a really big unlock for me because it was very obvious how much more integrated sort of the digital experience was on a day-to-day basis, and something that is very inspiring as someone that's very passionate about, crypto and obviously where these things can go in the future.
I currently live in Spain, and in Europe, I think it really depends on the country, right? Because I used to live in Germany, and I used to live in the Netherlands, and the Netherlands is very advanced. They are very, very modern as well. They really want to, tap into new technologies. While in Germany and Spain, it's a little bit slower, and they are kind of a bit against it, right? And sometimes it's because of privacy concerns and these kind of topics. But I think it's curious, right? Because the Netherlands, Germany, Spain they're very close by, but things change once you cross a border. But yeah, Tokyo, so Japan, very very advanced in that regard. That's quite interesting. And Coop, I wanted to touch on Coop Records. For those that aren't familiar, you're the founder. I read that it turned 1 year old recently, so congrats on that. And
Thank
you
you.
have worked with hundreds of artists, right? Musicians. You live basically on chain, right? You are trying the new things all the time. What's an on-chain record label, and why? Why did you start this project?
Yeah, so an on-chain record label to me is a record label that releases all of its music exclusively on-chain. And so if you think about a traditional record label, they're publishing their music on platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. We are only pushing our music on platforms like SoundXYZ, Warpcast, Boost, Layer 3, all of these crypto platforms. And so I think at its core, when you think about an on-chain record label, it purely just means that the way that we are making money is by selling the records in crypto. And the reason why we started this is having been involved in the space for so long, I have just a very unique passion for music in the first place. That's like what I went to college for and what's always kind of been my passion in life. And as I started to think about the way that I can make an impact within the music industry, I recognized that competing for Spotify plays, going viral on TikTok. It's a very crowded space and something that's very difficult to kind of break into. But crypto is kind of this net new playing field. We haven't really seen any major breakout success within the intersection of crypto and music. And so for me, Coop Records was basically just saying, I love music and I love crypto. There's probably an intersection in the middle there that's exciting. Granted, we haven't figured out exactly what that looks like yet, but at least for me, it felt like the most direct way that I can make a positive impact in the artists' lives that I know and love. And so we kind of created this foundation where we're releasing about 5 or 10 songs a week on chain every single week. It's typically from artists that have like 500K or a million monthly listeners. And so artists that are a little bit more established, they have some success on Spotify, they have a large Instagram following, they've been playing shows for a while, but they haven't quite made it yet. They're kind of like on the come up. They're starting to see early signs of success, but they're not like superstars yet. And the role that we play is really allowing them to have their first experience with crypto in a way that's not very intimidating to them. If you think about the way that crypto worked in 2021, you had to kind of go all in on NFTs to see success, where you were on Twitter, you were in Discord, you're on Telegram, you had a collector chat, you were doing spaces. And what we kind of learned is that NFTs are super polarizing to the traditional music world. Artists are very intimidated by it because it's very confusing. You have to think about bridging and ETH and all of these other concepts that are just really intimidating. And so the role that we play is saying, hey, we love your music. We see that it's valuable and we see that people like it in the traditional world. We're going to distribute that same song for you in crypto. And instead of trying to sell it to your regular music fans, we're going to sell it to crypto fans who have a higher tolerance to collect NFTs and do all these things that are a lot more native. So we found a great flow for it. I think we're at like 325 records at the time of recording this. And I feel really excited about where everything's at right now.
That sounds, it's, I think it's a great, if I were an artist and then you come in and you kind of take care of all these things, I think it's great for them. On the scouting, how do you select? Are you open to like applications? Is it more like you actually reach out to the artist and then explain how everything works? There are many artists in my audience and maybe they are interested. How can they be part of Coop Records? What's the process like?
It's very curated right now. And I think this is super important because one of the biggest criticisms of on-chain music and music NFTs in the past has been that the music is not good. If you look at the artists that are experimenting with the space, this is no shade at all. It's typically artists that have not really seen any success on Spotify. They're trying to find ways to reinvent themselves, reinvent their career. And so they kind of go all in on crypto as a new way to form an identity around themselves. But what I decided to do with a colleague on my team named Jake is start to go out to artists who have had traditional success and bring them into this world in a way that feels very natural and organic to them. And so to give some context here, Jake and I were doing music discovery, music curation for a blog called This Song Is Sick on SoundCloud about 10 years ago. This was like the biggest electronic blog in the world. It was breaking a bunch of records on SoundCloud. And curation is just something that I've always been very passionate about. And so the approach that we take for Coop Records is a combination of just my personal network living here in LA. I go to shows 2, 3, 4 times every week. I'm going to festivals all the time. I'm friends with a lot of artists that are out here. So it really just started there. Like, who are the people that are most immediately in my life on a day-to-day basis living here in LA? And more recently, we've started to go deeper on just saying like, yo, we found your record on SoundCloud. We found your record on Release Radar, our New Music Friday. I reach out to their manager, I shoot the artist a DM on Instagram. We get on a call like this, and I just say, hey, we love your music. We run a crypto record label. This is what it means. All we ask is that you send us a song and a cover art and a text group chat. We'll make a wallet for you. We'll upload the record, and you're making ETH that you would have never made otherwise without having to be into crypto in the first place. And so for a lot of these artists, they're very open to it because they don't have to post about it on Instagram. They don't have to be labeled as someone that's like super pro into crypto. They get to almost experience the benefits of the space without having to be putting in all this extra time and energy that I think got a lot of the artists that were into it a couple years ago very burned out when those numbers didn't keep going in the way they had originally seen out of the gate.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I wonder, are there any unexpected, like, positive things that these artists have experienced, or maybe that they tell you, like after 6 months, 1 year of being on chain, anything that you didn't expect to happen, or any positive feedback about what's happening on chain from these artists that are kind of new to the whole thing? Hello, guys. I just wanted to take some time to remind you about my NFT subscription via Hypersub. All subscribers get access to my token gated newsletter articles. You also get the podcast episodes airdropped into your crypto wallet. 8% of the revenue is shared across all subscribers. You also get access to my Discord server and participate in monthly giveaways and allow list opportunities. You can cancel at any time, and also you can control the length. You can go on a month to month basis, or you can get a whole year at once. This is also how I can keep going with the newsletter and podcast, and your support really means a lot. Find the link in the show notes below, and you can always DM me through my social networks if you have any questions. Thanks for your support.
Yeah, I mean, just for me, the concept of going viral on chain has been really important here. I have a podcast with Adam Levy about it. It's called Going Viral on Chain. I'd highly recommend looking into it. And we've had a few artists. A girl named Baker Grace, she had a record get 45,000 mints. She made like 30 ETH off of it. We have a couple artists that their very first song ever on chain ended up getting 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 mints. And this is the equivalent of millions of streams on Spotify. And so what most people don't realize is that if you're starting out your artist career from day one, it's very difficult for you to actually get like a substantial amount of plays on Spotify or followers on Instagram. And so for us, being able to give them a place where they feel validated, I'd say was been the most rewarding. There's an artist named Jaden Hills that's on Warpcast that you guys should check out. And her song ended up getting like 6,000 mints, and she was able to cover all of the producer fees from her first project using the sales that she made on chain. And I would say that the biggest difference with these examples that I'm giving you now is that the assets that are being sold on Sound are free mints. So they cost $2.50. You get a download of a track, you get a seat in the audience, but there's no expectation of utility. There's no expectation of being able to resell it for 10 times the price in the future. There's no collector kind of like, hope or expectation of getting something of substantial value. And so for the artists, they kind of get to benefit from their music being valued and appreciated, but without all of that extra baggage that came along with 0.1 ETH NFTs or a floor price being higher or lower than it was before. So to answer your question directly, I'd say the biggest wins have just been us showing an artist their Sound account and logging in and seeing that they have thousands of dollars in there that they never expected, and just being like, holy shit, like I can use this to actually fund my traditional music career.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a very gratifying experience to see time and time again.
Yeah, and I feel like there are two very important things there. As you said, you kind of remove the speculation, right? So there is no pressure to these artists, like people messaging them, hey, what are you doing next, right? Like, hey, let's do some marketing. Like, you fully remove that pressure. And also, it's a new audience for them, right? It's basically they are reaching people that probably weren't listening to them on a Spotify, right, or SoundCloud. So it's a net positive. I mean, two things come to mind. One is what you mentioned, the going viral on chain. I listened to that episode with Adam. I found it very, very interesting. And also the quote unquote free mints, right? Which is basically $2, $3 mints. It's kind of a new concept, right? Maybe became more popular over the past year. And we are seeing how that's, in this case, for music, it's kind of a critical factor, right? And I think that for people like us that have a podcast and my newsletter, it's kind of the business model that works, right? When it
Mm.
comes to an artist, if we think about high-end generative art, AI art, maybe that's not the way to go entirely, even though I feel like it also has a room in fine art. But in this case, when you are looking to reach a big audience and you want to interact with your audience, it feels like the right fit, right? And otherwise, if I want to sell my newsletter articles or my podcast episode at $50, it just doesn't make any sense, right? Why
Mm.
that doesn't make sense. So this is a great success story, Coop. Um, on going viral on chain, what are some of the factors that made that possible? Where are people seeing this music? Where are they seeing these mints? Where can they find them? Because that's where they are minting, right? They need to find the mints
Yep.
to actually mint. So where is this happening?
Well, I'm glad that you asked that question because I think there's an expectation that if you post a song on chain that people are just going to come and buy it because you posted it on a new platform. And I think that early on platforms like Sound or even Nifty Gateway or OpenSea or something like that, there was a lot more organic demand where people like wanted to come and find new NFTs to collect. I don't think that that's the case anymore. I think that if you're a creator that's publishing your work on chain, you need to go and work to get collectors. And so what that looks like on a very tangible basis is platforms like Onchain Daily, Onchain Summer from Base. Those have been like huge drivers of mints. You look at platforms like Mint.Fun that are mint aggregators that are showing things that are being minted in real time. You look at platforms like Daylight that are sort of taking these mints and putting them in different wallet interfaces like MetaMask or Zerion. And most importantly, you have platforms like Boost and Layer 3 that are running incentivized mint campaigns. And so for us at the record label, the way that we are getting 90 to 95% of our volume is by running on chain ad campaigns. And this might not be the sexiest thing in the world, but to really break it down, a mint costs $2.50. We give you back $1.50 in the hottest meme coin of the week. And so you basically get the song at a discount and you get this token that you're unfamiliar with or now have this upside exposure to. But it kind of removes the speculation away from the song and instead focuses it on the token reward. And I think this has been very important for us because now there's a lot more power and control in the hands of the curator because we can now say, okay, do we want this song to get more mints? Let's put more ad budget behind it. And in the same way that we see people running Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever the equivalent is in the traditional world, that now exists on chain. And I think that people are still kind of wrapping their heads around it because it doesn't feel as organic, for lack of a better term, is like someone just going out of their way to mint it, but it's not black or white. You know, the way that I see it is you're really building your top of funnel and you're trying to incentivize mints to get as many people kind of in the door as possible. And then over time, you have to build a strong foundation so that people want to stick around and come and mint more organically. But it's really a combination of both. And you can't just rely on people naturally coming out of the blue to mint something because there's just way too much shit on chain these days to expect people to come and do it of their own avail.
No, that's great. And just to recap, you're talking about boost.xyz, right? Which is
Yep.
kind of a new product where you can, as you said, run basically ads, right? You can incentivize people to mint something and they get a token reward. Could be ETH, could be Degent, could be any kind of token. And for your label, for your company, basically, that's how you market, right? That's how you assign a marketing budget to your artist, and that's how you boost them and get reach, right? So for companies, this is something that didn't exist. There wasn't a organic way to do this on chain, and we kind of relied on the old ways, right? Like ads on Twitter, ads on Instagram, Facebook, but those weren't really reaching the native crypto audience, right? I also agree there is something there, especially when other kind of companies want to spread their product, spread their content. There is something there definitely working. It's working for you. It's working for your artist. So definitely something that I would like to try. And Coop, going back to the music industry, I wonder what are the main challenges, right? Because I mean, you have been in this for a year. There are hundreds of artists you have worked with. There are great numbers out there, I'm sure there are some challenges when you are basically competing against the big players. Not sure if you think of it as a competition, right? But if Spotify, SoundCloud, they they're big companies. I know the rights, music rights is a big topic. I know record labels also have, yeah, sign artists. How does that fit with NFTs and what you are doing? Do you go on a partnership with the artists? Are they signed by other labels? Is there a problem with their streams on Spotify and SoundCloud? How does all this all fits together?
I mean, the way I see it is that we are like a net new piece of the equation. And so we're not trying to compete with a traditional label that's pushing your music on Spotify. In fact, we actually have partnerships with labels like Helix, Third Brain, Bitbird, R&R Records, a bunch of more independent record labels, let's call it. They're not like major labels like Universal or Sony or anything like that, but they are record labels. And what we do is we add them to the split on the song, and they're making money the same way that their artists are making money. So we've seen a lot of our artists actually use their proceeds from their on-chain sales to pay off their advances that they got from the record label in the traditional industry. And so what we're seeing now is that record labels are coming to us and saying, hey, here's all of our releases for this week. What songs do you want to work on? Like, we recognize Coop Records as a new way for us to make additional income on our catalog. And we're now able to be selective and say, hey, we love this song. This one might not be a good fit for us, but we love this song. And they'll then introduce us to the team's manager, to the artist directly. And it's kind of an extra way for us to get new music in the door. I would say, to your question about like competition and challenges and whatnot, the reality is that we are a record label. And so our competition is like the Universal Musics and the Sony Musics of the world. But I think we're doing it in a way that's fundamentally different from them. And it goes back to your original question of what is an on-chain record label? You know, what success looks like to me with an on-chain record label is that value is not only being captured by us as the core team of Coop Records, that value needs to be captured by all of the key stakeholders that are involved in the record label. So that's our artist, that's our collectors, and that's our curators. And if you think about the way that a record label works today, company gives an artist money, company gets exposure and rights to the music, and then all of that capital just stays internal at the record label itself. They're using that to reinvest in artists and to sign more artists, et cetera. But what success looks like to me is that if you're an artist on Coop Records, you have exposure to all of the other artists who are dropping on Coop Records. If you're a collector that's collecting something of Coop Records, you have exposure to every song that we're releasing on the label. And I think when you start to view it as this sort of like collective game where it's not just about you only collecting one specific song or supporting one specific artist, and instead designing a system where everything is connected and everyone is sharing in that upside together, I think that's what starts to make this attractive relative to the models of the traditional past, where most of that value is just captured by the label directly.
No, that's kind of the networking effects that you're generating there. I was listening to a podcast about publishing books, and was very similar to what you are describing. So other writers were supporting each other, right? And that created this sort of flywheel, and also the readers, right? So if I read this author that I really like, and then he shows this friend of him that just published a book, then the chances of the reader, buying that book are very high. And I think that's exactly what you are describing with the record label. So that's quite interesting. And looking forward, Coop, I think 2 years ago, there was a lot of speculations, and people were having these typical projects. They had these roadmaps, right? And they were trying to, in 1 year we'll do this, in 2 years we'll do that. But now that we are kind of in a more sustainable system, more sustainable, business model, what are some of the benefits that you think artists can give, and maybe your record label, to collectors, to people that enjoy music? Do you think there is something there where the NFTs could actually do something more, that is not driven by speculation?
I don't think that the NFTs themselves need to do anything more. I think that the first challenge to crack is how to make them socially acceptable, how to make it so that someone wants to go and collect 5 or 10 songs and then show their friend, I have these 5 or 10 songs and it represents my music taste. That has nothing to do with like the NFT having utility or value on its own. It's just really a matter of people caring about it and finding it cool and culturally relevant in the first place. I would say
Yeah.
beyond that, the way that I think about the benefit of collecting these songs is through on-chain reputation. So if you look at a platform like Stack and their points that they've been doing, you can now assign status to the more actions that you do within a given ecosystem. So if I go and collect 10, 15, 20 records from Coop Records, I can now be building my reputation within that ecosystem, which is going to correlate to my ownership in the label. And so I think if you extrapolate this a bit, the way we think about it is it starts with Coop Records. We're currently building out a product that's going to take sound, boost, and stack and combine it all into one. But that product is meant to be a template for artists to do the same thing. Where to give a very direct example, I collect a song on Coop Records. I get back $1.50 of rewards and some token like higher, and then I'm earning Coop Records points. And so now I'm getting the song for the social status. I'm getting the reward token for speculation, and I'm also getting internal reputation in the form of Coop Records points. So I can now see where I map in that community. I can start to spend those points on other songs that I want to collect. And so the way that I think about this is you don't want to just milk collectors for more and more money all the time. Like in the same way that you have cash back, you have Amex rewards points, travel points, etc. This is kind of the system we want to build internally with Coop Records and make it feel more like a game. And the more that people feel like they're playing something that is fun and engaging and culturally relevant to their day-to-day lives, and the more that Coop Records can be a place that people want to actually discover new music and not just be like a crypto play, I think that's when the snowball really starts to form. And I think that's where we start to see this actually start to work far beyond just only applying to crypto people directly.
Yeah, and I think this is what you just described can be applied to anything media, right? Could be applied to podcasting, could be applied to articles, could be applied to video. And I think it's already happening, right? And it's very exciting what I'm seeing these days. I think you also have a hyper sub, right, with for the label, and this connectivity, right, between hyper sub, paragraph, Sora. It's kind of the UI UX will get better, right? Like how people see this connectivity. But the fact that me as a creator can set up all these things together, and you mentioned Stack, which is this one I didn't know. I have to check this one. Now I can also give points back to my collectors. That's really exciting. Coop, I saw that you organized a new event, a new type of event. Can you tell us a bit about it and what you have learned from those meetings?
Absolutely. So Midnight Diner is our new event series here in LA. It was our partnership with Base for On-Chain Summer, and we basically are hosting a new event in LA the first Wednesday of every month. And so the events feature Coop Records artists. We rent out a warehouse in Koreatown, and we record the sets, and we mint them on-chain. And so it kind of creates this opportunity for music people to come and experience crypto in a way that they're very familiar with. So what we did for the last one is when you came into the door to get a free drink wristband, you had to set up a wallet using Coinbase Smart Wallet and collect a POAP. And the reason for that is that we were able to get people into crypto for the first time and then airdrop them in addition of the sets that they saw later that night. And it was very interesting to me because we've been trying all these different ways to get people to download a wallet, trying to offer them cash back. Like if you set up a wallet, we'll give you $10. It's the alcohol, man. If you put free drink wristband behind the need to download a wallet, people will actually go and do that. And so that was kind of our biggest learning from the last event. What I would say in general is that being able to take content that's produced IRL, i.e. the set that we're recording in LA, and mint that on chain, it starts to create this like synergy where you can now start to form very real experiences around these moments. Where like if you were at these shows and you were in those events and you had these memories and these experiences, collecting that or getting it for free through an airdrop means more to you than what it does when you just collect like a random song that came out on Spotify on Friday. And so I'm a DJ myself. I'm super into like mixed culture. And I think that for us, we're trying to be very forward on like pushing the needle on what it means for culturally relevant electronic music to come on chain. And Midnight Diner has really been our way of kind of taking that concept and putting it into fruition. So still a ton to learn from it. But if you're listening to this, first Wednesday of every month. We got our next one in LA, August 7th. It's going to be fantastic. And much, much more to come.
And people can just show up to that. How can they find the details in your social media? What's the process there? Is it open for everybody?
Yeah, open for everyone. It's a free RSVP. Being very transparent here. When we set out to start Midnight Diner, we thought that we were going to be selling tickets for $20 a piece. What we realized is that it's more valuable for us to get people in the door and make them a wallet than it is for those people to give us $20. And the reality is we're going to reach way less people if we are charging them $20. And so I almost see it as like a top of funnel experiment where we're doing free RSVP, free drinks, free food. All you have to do is come and make a wallet. And so you come and make a wallet, you have this very memorable experience, you get an airdrop for the first time. And now all of a sudden, these people who have never touched crypto before have a smart wallet that's tied to their Face ID. They have a POAP, which gave them a memory that they were at the event. And their wallet is now filled with these sets that they got to see IRL. And so they had to spend $0, and they now have these, tokens on chain that represent something of cultural relevance to them, with a path towards actually being more involved in the future. And so taking like a big step back, I mentioned earlier, an on-chain record label is one in which all of its different stakeholders are sharing in this success together. And so the vision that I have for this is, if you come to one of our events, you're able to make a wallet, collect the set for free, and then earn ownership in Coop Records. Where how cool would it be if you go to these events, you go to these concerts, and you're seeing these artists playing, and you wake up the next day and you have tokens in your wallet that are of value because you just came and did something that you're normally doing on your day-to-day life. So that's like North Star, where we want to get to. But I do think this idea of like, come and show up to something IRL that you're already interested in doing, and then walk away with that with a really positive experience that didn't require any level of investment or speculation. You just got paid to show up and have a good time.
No, it sounds exciting. I wish there was something like that here in Spain. I'll definitely go, and I think it's the right way to onboard a new people into the space. Coop, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for sharing what you're doing. Very very exciting. I think you describe a lot of exciting things, but I want to understand, what are your worries these days? Are you worried about anything in particular? Anything you think needs to change for the space to keep evolving? What are your thoughts there?
It's a good question. I try not to worry about things because I'm just optimistic that they're going to work themselves out eventually. I think that my biggest concern right now is that we don't have any consumer applications that are desired or usable by regular people. I think a concern of mine is that crypto has this habit of just being hot for like 2 weeks. Like, all the new apps that come out are like the biggest thing in the world, just end up losing all of their attention so fast. I mean, if you look at things like Friend Tech and Fantasy Top, or even like Scoop that launched lately, I'm super into the ideas and the premises of what these platforms are presenting. But crypto does this weird thing where it just like shoots something up to the moon, and then it comes back down and everyone's like, oh, this thing failed. But the benchmark's actually like good. Like, if you think about where all these platforms are at now, it's kind of a lot healthier spot. There's just not a lot of people here. Like, in reality, there's probably only like 100,000 people that are like actively doing shit on chain every single week. And so I think that for me, the concern would be that there's just not enough people here, and that the ways in which those new people come into the space is too cost intensive and too psychologically overbearing for them to actually start to form a positive relationship and a positive sentiment with the space in the first place.
Yeah, no, makes total sense. That makes a lot of sense. Coop, three artists that inspire you. Music artists. Let's go with three music artists that inspire you, that people should definitely check out.
3 music artists that inspire me that they should check out. I'll start with our on-chain artists first, and then I'll give you some of my personal favorite artists from there. So 3 on-chain artists that I would recommend checking out. 33 Below. He just played our event in LA last weekend. He's phenomenal. He has his set that's on sound right now. A bunch of great music in the works. Daniel Allen, very close colleague of mine. Couldn't speak more highly of him. And an artist named Lyra, who's just phenomenal. She's super talented. So 33 Below, Daniel Allen, and Lyra. Those are my 3 artists worth checking out. And then personally for me, I'm really into artists like Skrillex, Illenium, Tycho, Post Malone. Those are some of my favorite names. But high level, man, I'm just a huge fan of music. And I think at the end of the day, the reason why I love working on Coop Records is that it's just a passion of mine that I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. So honestly, man, many days it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like I get to do things that I love, and I wouldn't change it for a single thing in the world.
That's what everybody wants to be, right? They want to combine their passion with their work, and I think you definitely are doing that. So congrats, Coop. And one last question: are you on Spotify? So your own music, is it? Do you release it as a DJ or not really?
No, I just put it on Mixcloud. If you look on my Warpcast, you'll see that I share the mixes on Warpcast, and they're on a site called Mixcloud right now. I've debated minting them on chain. I haven't done that yet, but I just got into DJing like a little under a year ago. And so, typically speaking, I'll just like hop on the decks one night, record a mix for an hour, just toss it up there. But I've really loved getting back into DJing, and specifically DJing crypto parties. I played at the FAR concert event. I played that event in Shibuya in Tokyo. I DJed at ETH Denver. And so if you're listening to this and you're looking for anyone to DJ your next crypto event, please hit me up because I really enjoy it, and I would be happy to come and spin on the decks.
Amazing, Coop. Thanks so much for your time and all the knowledge. Wish you the best with Coop Records, and talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me, man. See you guys.